In 1974, Jim Rice played with the Triple-A Pawtucket Red Sox for most of the season, winning the International League's Triple Crown, Rookie of the Year, MVP, and was named the Sporting News Minor League Player of the Year. Clearly having nothing more to prove at Triple-A, the highly prized prospect made the short trip to Boston and appeared in 24 games for the Red Sox late in the season. He hit his first Major League homer on October 1st off Cleveland's Steve Kline. In 67 at-bats, Jim Rice batted .269. When 1975 opened, Rice was not on the Major League roster. Why? Legendary tragic Red Sox phenom Tony Conigliaro was attempting a comeback as the team's DH, a role originally planned for Rice. After the opening weeks of the season, it appeared that Tony C's comeback was not to be. Rice was called up and inserted as the team's DH. By July, Rice took over left field for Carl Yastrzemski for the rest of the season, continuing the tradition of Hall of Fame Red Sox left fielders started by Ted Williams. In 144 games, he hit .309 with 22 homers and 102 RBIs with a solid .128 OPS+. For his efforts, he ended up second to teammate Fred Lynn for the Rookie of the Year award and came in third in the MVP voting, again being beat by Fred Lynn. The two rookies were dubbed the Gold Dust Twins and formed what may have been the most productive rookie duo of all time. Legendary slugger Hank Aaron, then winding up his career with the American League Milwaukee Brewers, was most impressed with the potential of the slugging Rice and even suggested that Rice could go on to eventually break his own all-time home run record. However, Rice's year came to a premature end in late September when Tigers pitcher Vern Rule broke his left hand with a pitch. This sidelined him for the rest of the season, including the postseason, which Boston upended Oakland's 3-year stranglehold on the American League pennant and the Classic World Series against Cincinnati. 1976 saw something of a regression in Jim Rice's numbers. Call it a sophomore slump, or perhaps he hadn't fully recovered from the previous year's broken hand. He still went on to play in 153 games and hit 25 homers and had an OPS plus of 120, albeit with a league-leading 123 strikeouts. At full strength in 1977, Jim Rice showed the baseball world that he belonged in the conversation of the league's most feared hitter. Making his first of 8 trips to the All-Star game, Rice hit .320, mashed a league-leading 39 homers, and drove in 114 RBIs. His .593 slugging percentage led the league, as did his 382 total bases. His .147 OPS plus was in the top 6. For good measure, he also legged out 15 triples. All this offensive production resulted in a 4th-place finish in the MVP award. In 1978, Jim Rice hit his peak and was a force who preyed on American League hurlers. In his league-leading 746 plate appearances, he paced the American League in several categories, including 213 hits, 15 triples, 46 homers, 139 RBIs, a .970 OPS, a .157 OPS plus, and 406 total bases. And oh yeah, he hit .315. The All-Star left fielder became the first Red Sox player since Ted Williams in 1939 and 1940 to hit 20 homers, 20 doubles, and 10 triples in consecutive years. His 46 homers were the most by a Red Sox batter since Jimmy Fox hit 50 in 1938. His previously mentioned league-leading 406 total bases marked the first time an American League batter reached 400 since Joe DiMaggio in 1937 and has been reached only 6 times in all of baseball since then. His offensive output propelled the Red Sox to a 1-game playoff against the Yankees to determine the winner of the American League East. Despite Boston's loss in that one game, Rice won the American League MVP. In 1979, Rice continued where he left off in 1978, becoming the first Red Sox hitter to have 35 homers for 3 consecutive seasons. Fans elected him, along with teammates Fred Lynn and Carl Yastrzemski, to start all 3 outfield spots in the Midsummer Classic. Although the Red Sox finished in 3rd place, it was through no fault of Rice. Again leading the American League with 369 total bases, he hit .325, bashed 39 homers, and drove in 130. His .977 OPS was good enough for a .150 OPS plus. It was becoming an annual occurrence. Rice earned MVP votes, this time finishing 4th. Hampered by injuries, Rice saw a slight regression of his 1980 numbers. However, they were certainly well above the average players. Appearing in just 124 games, Rice batted .294, mashed 24 homers, and drove in 86. Although his OPS dropped by over 140 points, he still had an OPS plus of 122. Despite this drop-off in production, Rice was named to the American League All-Star team for the fourth consecutive year. The 1981 Major League Baseball season was interrupted by a player strike, which lasted from June 12th through June 31st, which reduced the season from 162 games to a range of 103 through 111 games, depending on the team. Such an interruption negatively impacted the production of many players, and Jim Rice was no different. While he posted an OPS plus of 117 with 17 homers and 62 RBIs, his batting average dropped to an uncharacteristic .284. Rice rebounded nicely in 1982, batting .309, slugging 24 homers, and driving in 97. Rice raised his on-base percentage by 40 points. His slugging percentage increased by 90 points, resulting in an OPS of 868, good enough for an OPS plus of 131. While he was not selected for the Midsummer Classic for the second consecutive year, he garnered enough American League MVP votes to finish within the top 20. The only black cloud over this nice year was his league-leading 29 ground into double plays, the first of 4. During a game against the White Sox, teammate Dave Stapleton drove a foul ball into the stands, striking a 4-year-old boy. When it seemed everyone was in shock, Rice instinctively ran to the stands, picked up the unconscious 4-year-old, and rushed him to the trainer's room, saving the young boy's life. Building off the success he had in 1982, Rice played as though he was still in the 1970s. The 29-year-old hit .305, smashed an American League high 39 homers, and drove in 126 to share the league lead with Milwaukee's Cecil Cooper. His .911 OPS was good enough for 4th highest in the American League and resulted in a 141 OPS plus. He again led the league with 344 total bases. Selected to the All-Star game, Rice won a Silver Slugger Award and placed 4th in the American League MVP vote. While Jim Rice stepped back somewhat at the plate in 1984, he still produced superior numbers, winning a second consecutive Silver Slugger Award. Rice bashed 28 homers, drove in 121, and checked in with a 791 OPS. Again selected to the All-Star game, Rice finished within the top 15 of the AL MVP vote. Jim Rice turned in yet another Jim Rice-esque year in 1985, hitting .291, smacking 27 homers, and driving in 103. Rice ended the season with an .836 OPS, which is good enough for a 123 OPS plus. Ever popular with the fans, Rice was selected to start his 4th All-Star game. 1986 marked the final year in Rice's career in which he was an elite player. Named to his 8th and final All-Star game, his numbers reflected this selection. His .324 average was his 7th time over 300. His 20 homers was the 11th out of the previous 12 seasons with at least 20, with the strike-shortened 1981 season with the only one he did not hit 20. He surpassed the 100 RBI plateau for the 8th time with 110. His 200 hit total was the 4th with at least 200. His .874 OPS was his 9th over 830. A 6th highest 137 OPS plus showed he was about as good as anyone else in the American League, as were his 303 total bases. His numbers, coupled with the Red Sox's American League East Division title, yielded a 3rd place finish in the American League MVP vote. Now, while he hit just .161 with 2 homers in the League Championship Series victory over the California Angels, one of the homers was a key 3-run wallop in Game 7. He hit .333 in the World Series loss to the New York Mets in what was to be his only fall classic. An elbow and knee injury limited Rice to just 108 games in 1987, which dramatically impacted his numbers. Vision problems did not help, as his batting average dropped almost 50 points to .277. Traditionally, counting stats like homers and RBIs also suffered. While his .766 OPS was league average, clearly Jim Rice did not have a Jim Rice-esque year. These maladies would stick with Rice for the rest of his career. Expecting that 1987 was an aberration, 1988 opened with Jim Rice hoping to have a rebound year. While he did play in 27 more games, his numbers were relatively the same in 1987. He hit .264 with 15 homers and 72 RBIs, and his .736 OPS was 30 points lower. However, it was still league average. In 1989, in 56 games, Jim Rice hit just .234. The low point of the season came during a game in which manager Joe Morgan decided to pitch hit for Jim Rice. Light-hitting infielder Spike Owen grabbed a bat to hit for one of the most feared sluggers in Red Sox history. A frustrated Rice confronted Morgan and proceeded to hit Morgan several times. That resulted in a suspension and his eventual release at the end of the 1989 season. The last few unhappy at-bats of the season's difficult twilight dropped Rice's career average from .300 to .298, a drop that provided ammunition for critics in the Hall of Fame eligibility years that followed. Despite all the accolades, for years an argument like no other post-career argument raged about whether Rice's statistics merited him Hall of Fame recognition. On January 12, 2009, the day the vote of his final year of eligibility was announced, Rice was sitting at home when he received a call from Jack O'Connell, the Baseball Writers Association of America. With 76.4% of the ballots naming him, he was finally in Cooperstown.